So you really educated people to show up like on time. So I would say whenever women come, they're on time. But at the same time, we'll do our best. Hi.
That's a freezing, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Okay, so let's just take another moment to welcome the two other people who just came in and tell me your names again. Lena, tell us something about yourself.
A little guy, working in front, and 5 boys.
Oh, wow. Do they match up?
They do.
Where would y'all say?
You know Marla?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm the big one.
Yeah, I'm sorry, okay.
You look like you're
Hi, can we ask you to
Yes,
say what?
sorry, hi, my name's Lisa. I've been here for a little while, but I actually just met Aliyah, and so I was just between put me in the post office for them to get health insurance.
Okay.
That's my
Welcome.
I apologize.
Great.
Unsuccessfully, I should add.
Oh, sorry. So, I guess, what I'd like to do with you in this short series, which, we'll see, it could open up other doors for us. I really don't think that, well, actually, I want to Lev Nachon, Center for Transformative Torah, which I've begun to cultivate and develop over the past few years, doesn't mean a correct or true heart. It means that Nachon means to like lichavein, like to, I would say to attune, right? And I would say that what we're really doing in Avodat Hashem and in our lives, when we wake up every day, is to like, if we can somehow breathe before we run into the chaos of what goes on very often every day, is to attune ourselves. Where am I today? To attune ourselves in our relationships, to attune ourselves to attune ourselves. I don't. What I'd like to share is that the masters have a path, which is a non-authoritarian, very, I would say, spiritually and ethically directed path that I think people are really looking for, and it's right here. It's right here. It's like somebody's like excavated out of the hidden treasures of their thought. I believe they're really the most healthy, natural continuation of Torah Shabbat. It's not like, some like, piece of herring on a shelf someplace with some, smelling man running around. I mean, it's your tradition. And I think that, it's been very, inaccessible to many people because it's kind of, it's in a language and a jargon that very often people don't have access to. So this is part of what I'd like to share, what I'm trying to bring out to the world, and what I had found over many, many years of having the privilege to learn with Lara and Heather and Sipora over many years. Of people say, how come nobody knows about this? Like, this is so interesting. This will be so helpful. So we'll see if you think so in a short amount of time. What I'd really like to open up with for a second is just when we say the word chassidut, how does that resonate for you? Because like people are in many different places. So I'd really like just to start there for a moment. Like we'll take the moment. I think it's worth it. I don't go in order. I tell you, I don't go in order on purpose because while she's talking, you're going to be thinking about what you're saying because you're going to think that you're next. So that's chassidut. You hear the word chassidut. Like what is it? What comes to mind?
Like hidden meanings.
Hidden meanings. Okay.
Like something is deeper.
Great. And that's now next time or at some point, if it's possible, I know if we still have it, like, I don't know, board, something to write things down. Okay. That's possible. Like we used to have that once upon a time, maybe Josh. Okay. Yeah, because sometimes it's nice to see it. I'm a visual person, right? So we'll picture it like hidden meanings. Okay.
To me, it sounds like a cult.
A cult. Oh, suspicious, weird, not for me, not the real thing, yeah, so let's get, I think we need to get it out. So why are you here?
I what the subject was. I said I'm going to a share. No, I think, do you want to come with me? When Deborah says I said I'm going to a share. Do you want to come with me to a share? And
that's really
I didn't give her any more information.
Okay.
I wasn't even supposed to be there. I was on my way to work, but I decided.
That makes it more suspicious than cult-like.
Okay, yeah, who else?
Spiritual?
Okay. Okay, these are all on the big board here, right? Okay.
Mystical.
Mystical. Okay. I'd like to flesh that one out. It's like that. It's not like what your kids are doing in the basement when you're not looking. It's like, the question is, what's mystical? Um,
For me, it's also just strange and foreign, honestly.
strange in a good way or in a not good way, an uncomfortable way, curious way, what kind of way?
I guess mix of positives and negatives.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. It's helpful.
I would say floopy, but I don't exactly know what
What
that's
is
the
floopy?
word that comes to my mind. Just like dancing, you know, like people dancing in a field. That's what I think of when I think of Chassidut.
They're all
Okay.
gonna be very similar.
At the same time, I've already been to a sidra of your shiuri where you did Chassidut and Parshat Shavua, and I found it to be unbelievable, so.
So I want to get, so like, when there's mixed associations have to do, which by the way, I never give share for less than an hour and a half, which is why I condescended to be able to give it to share for an hour, 15 minutes. But I think talking to you is even if we don't get through all of our sources, we need to know each other. People need to know what they think. You need to hear yourselves. You need to hear your own associations. So my question is whether it's floopy. I have to go look that word up.
I don't know if it's a word.
It is now.
I don't know if it's a word,
It is
but that's
now.
what comes to my mind, but I think of Chassidut.
So I guess my question is, I think that there, for many people, Hasidut, it doesn't have to do with like textual learning, you know, or parshanut, is that right? It has to do more with, I don't know, like stories. Or,
Feeling, song, connecting
Right.
in a way that's
I
not.
say, right, dancing with no money in the bank, right?
At the same time, it's not fair because I already know.
Fair.
Experienced your version of Chassidut, so.
Okay, great. Anybody else?
I think of the hologram,
Oh,
like
wow.
a world on the raindrop.
Wow.
Like every, you just see all the teachings are within each cell of your body kind of thing. I don't know, it's like, you know.
You mean like when you see like a raindrop, like a world like reflected? in
Yeah.
it? Oh, cool. I got it.
Okay.
I was also thinking of dancing because I like to dance in musicals, like Fiddler on the Roof. But after so much of influence under the table from Batya, the first thing I think of is Meshallah.
It's what? Meshallah. Well, introduced.
If someone said, how's he do this? And, or someone said, Batya's giving you a show. I said, sure. It's like,
Okay, does anyone not have sources? Okay, I made a couple spare with some amuna. Some people would come out of the woodwork. Okay, thank you. I'd love to have like a whole bunch of hours to sit with you, but you guys don't have a whole bunch of hours. So, that's helpful for me. It gives a context. I think it's important for you also just to like, what are your associations? What I'd like to do is I'll introduce you to Rav Mordechai Yosef of Ishbitz. This has been to the top of my head. That's that. Who has never heard of him? Has like no idea who he is. Okay. All right. So. Okay, there are different branches of Hasidut, and I don't want to go into a whole like history of Hasidut, but one branch of Hasidut comes from Simcha Bunim. People have heard of the Kutzker? Okay, this Thursday is the Kutzker's Yard site. I'm actually doing a Hebrew panel online with people. It should be very exciting and fun. It's the more, I would say, rigorous, intellectual, and spiritual branch of Hasidut. They don't believe in miracle making. The tafkid and the role of the Rebbe is, I would say, more like a spiritual psychologist. People came to the Rebbe to help reflect in them what they needed to repair, as opposed to somehow using the Rebbe as a conduit, if that's right. So it's really very not like, magic making amulets or whatever type of other associations that people might have, which I personally do not identify with on my own personal spiritual levels. I think a very profound, deep, both are rigorously demanding, rational, and yet also spiritual path. Okay. So anyway, let's just try to stay focused. So Mordechai Yosef, the Mea Shalach is Mordechai Yosef. He was born in 1800 and died in 1854. I've been carrying around his book for, oh my God, 40 years. Okay, I want to kind of just open, this is when I'm going to open up with a short piece of the introduction, trying to describe what Torah is, like what he's trying to do and what Torah is. Now, the introduction is long, it's lengthy, it's like, it's like 10 pages. And I just plucked out a small section that I thought encapsulates what for me is most compelling about these teachings. Okay, so he's trying to explain what he's trying to do with his Torah. Of course, he didn't write his Sefer, so it was his children and disciples. So we're a bit in the middle. Right? Do I have to translate, by the way? Okay. It's just a flowing river of thought. Darash Rabbeinu shirim tmidim kesidram b'chol yom v'yom b'limud ha'gemara al pi derech ha'emet u'b'shabbatot u'moadim v'inyanei diyoma kama sha'ot ritzufot b'chol yom. So first of all, they're making it clear they taught Gemara, right? They had a regular schedule of learning. V'bi'ur ha'torah shebichtav u'be'al peh b'pardes. So they analyzed and read and learned Torah Shebechtav, Torah Sheba'al Peh, Pardes, Pshat, Remez, and Drash, right? All the various different layers and levels of understanding and explicating the Torah. And here's what I want you to see: Ve'ech kol divrei Torah shayachim l'chol adam befrat. How the words of the Torah are shayach. It's a very important word. Belong. You could translate it as belongs to each individual. I'm going to come back to that word. If you had a highlighter, I'll tell you to highlight shayach. The kol ha'me'ura'ot hanizkarim b'Torah hem shayachim l'chol adam ve'ovrim al kol nefesh b'chol dor v'dor u'mimena mikach la'avodat Hashem. Right? The words of the Torah are shayach l'chol adam b'prat. It doesn't mean shayach means like they belong to you. The word shayach, it's more than meaning like it is your spiritual or sacred history. It means that it's about you. Like the Torah is about you, and it's not outside of you. It belongs to you. Right? The words of the Torah belong to every individual, and the events that are mentioned in the Torah, shayachim l'chol adam, they belong to you. They're about you. And it's not like each generation takes a look and learns this Torah and tries to pass it on, but each generation internalizes this Torah, identifies this as this Torah. It becomes part. You become a part of it, and it becomes a part of you. The way we're going to serve God is through this whole process. So, do you see what I'm getting at? No, yes. Okay, so it's kind of like frames what it is he's doing. And so what I'd like to do is we're kind of not jumping into very, very deep waters here because it's Parshat Yitro. Can have more intense parsha like to start these teachings on. But I'd like to introduce, I would like to work with you a little bit on and say, if the Torah is anything, if our commitment to the Torah is anything, it has to do with how we understand Revelation. Now you can say, what's on? It has to do with like my parents. But what I'd really like to do is sit down and have people have like a sacrament, like, why do you keep stuff? I know it sounds like really like, why do you keep stuff? What is this Torah? What is stuff? Especially when you run into things that are a little bit challenging and difficult. So I think these are really foundational questions that we need to be like asking ourselves. What do people really believe that the Torah is? What do you tell your children? What are you going to tell them when they get to be kids that are my age? I think those are really crucial questions, and I might even start if you say, Anochi Hashem Elokecha. Stop for a second, right? Like, what comes to your mind? Do you get excited about this parsha? Like, it's like what comes to your mind? The word revelation, like, what does it mean to you? It's not a rhetorical question. What does it mean? What is say, it's revelation, it's galut, matan Torah. What does that mean to you?
Like rooted and connected,
Okay, all right, makes you feel rooted and connected.
right, and not like food. No, but I'm saying, you know what I mean? I got it.
How do you spell it so we can Google it?
I would even push it further, I think you need to say, what do you have to believe about, what happened at Sinai? What do you have to believe, so to speak, in order to be from? Like, I remember I used to give shir once, and somebody who remained nameless said to me, "Are you allowed to say that? Are you allowed to think that?" I was like, "I just explained to you what the masters are saying, what he's saying about Chazal. Are you allowed to believe that?" It's like, really? People walk around thinking, well, I'm allowed to think this, I'm not allowed to think this. This is from, and this is outside the pale. I just tell you something. I was teaching once in Brooklyn to Haredi men. They're very, very fluid. And he said something very interesting. Yeah, we know the modern Orthodoxy, they make an avodah zarah of the haluch.
How come they let you teach them? That's what I want to know.
Right? Because they don't make an avodah zarah of the haluch, which we're going to see. Right? So I'll leave out. I'm not going to explain it. But you need to answer things. Kids are going to ask you questions. You ask yourself questions. What do you believe about Torah? What do you believe about Revelation? Anybody else wants to make a comment before I kind of go into
Just to add to what you said, it's like, and also with Betsy do this, like, it becomes something personal. Very
Great.
personalizes like all of this, and then they have some other not like. It's not thorough. It's
Right. No, that's right. So, yeah, like we could really just spend the rest of our time on that. People really need to understand, you just have to learn how to read the Torah. Anochi Hashem Elokecha. And Chazal emphasize that. And you can, for years, my first love was Chazal, and that still is. But I think what happens is the masters will say, they're like they put the magnifying glass on Chazal and just open it up. Okay.
Yeah, going along with that, it's like, it matters, like what you do matters. Like, if we matter enough that there's gonna be a revelation, why do a revelation unless for each individual person, it really matters that they're there in the scene.
Okay. This is challenging. Okay, there's a lot of great material here. We're not going to be able to do everything. I would like to I have to decide now what I'm going to give up on. Okay. What's that?
it's so.
It is, it's really, really hard. Okay, I'm gonna leave for you the Sfat Emet, even though it's a really beautiful piece. I was gonna start with Avraham Avinu. I'll just tell you something briefly. This is very beautiful about, Avraham Avinu is the first person who had a relationship with God, which is why I wanted to start there. Avraham is called Avraham Ohavi, right? So Avraham is considered to be, he's the person who is like Av Hama'aminim. So where does that emunah come from? Right? So actually, I can't help myself. I'm going to learn this with you briefly. It's very beautiful. So the Ramban says, or we open up with Lech Lecha, and the Ramban asks the question, Lech Lecha, bli shenazkir mikodem chibato. So what's the question the Ramban is asking? Why did God choose Abraham? Right? You know about Noach, the Torah tells you, Noach ish tzadik tamim haya b'dorotav be'et Elohim, right? Yivalech Noach. So it's obvious why God chose Noach, but it is not obvious why God chose Abraham. So the Ramban asks this question: Why? What do we know about Abraham that God should choose him? And the Zohar says something extraordinary, which is going to require what I call just going to shift of mind. All right. So let's just take a look. The Zohar, Hakadosh Baruch Hu nir'ah. And כי זה עצמו השבח, ששמע זה המאמר לך לך. Did you get that? Okay, you have to like twist your brain around a little bit. He's saying, what's the shevach? What is the praise? What is the praise of why why God should have chosen Abraham? He said, oh, that in and of itself, what's the that? That, and he's going to have to explain, that in and of itself is the shevach, sheshama zeh ha'ma'amar lech lecha. Etzem ha'inyan, that he actually heard lech lecha, that is the praise. You're like, oh, what do you mean? It says in the Torah that God spoke to Abraham and said lech lecha. Right? Which is the way that would be the more, I would say, modern conventional way to read the Torah. The Torah is this book which tells you about how God communicates to people. Yeah. But that's not the way they're reading the book in this way. There's Shene'emar Mehashem Yitbarach l'kol Shene'emar Mehashem Yitbarach l'kol ha'anashim tamid. Kamo shektuv voy le'inun shinta b'chorehen. Oy, for these sleeping people. Now, this is an excerpt out of the Zohar. The Zohar is saying everybody's sleeping. They're all asleep.
Is that suggesting that he spoke to lots of people and only Abraham heard?
Keep reading. No, not sorry. Beautiful. Right, beautiful, 100%. Avraham Avinu, alav shalom, shama v'kibel. Umemela nikra rak hadibur elav, ki halo lo nimtza miyuchad lishma. There wasn't anybody to hear. So, right, he says, Rahu, אבל בוודאי זה השבח בעצמו שהיה מוכן לקבל מאמר. See what you're saying? Right, 100%. He's saying it's like, that's what I called when I'm doing Leiv Nachon. Can we attune ourselves? I mean, you ever have this experience? You're talking, is anybody listening here? Is anyone out there? Hello? Anybody is that? Is that brotherhood? I think that mothers can understand this material, and then a little bit, I think, have a little more beautiful and crucial feminine qualities. Yeah, so the way that this is describing it is Kadosh Baruch Hu speaking all the time. But only Abraham heard. So what's the Shevach? He said, that's not Shevach. That it's written as if the only person who have heard it is Abraham.
Heard or listened?
Well, it says.
Because everyone could have heard and just, chose to not do, not listen.
They heard, they knew it was God's words, but they chose not to listen.
Yeah, Avram was the only one who listened.
So that's not what he's saying.
Okay.
That's going to require a different kind of a mind shift, which is just challenging here, where we're all people are kind of indoctrinated in a certain way of thinking about how do we think about God, how do we think about humanity, how do we think about communication. So that would be kind of a very understandable way. I know God's talking all the time, and God's talking, but everyone's ignoring. No. It's that there's no consciousness. They're talking about consciousness. Relationships and religion is all about consciousness. It's all about consciousness. It's about our inner world. It's not, there's a shift here is this about what God is speaking, but these people are stubborn and they don't want to hear, and Abraham heard. No, there's, it's like you go outside and, you go outside and you see nature, and different people enjoy it. And some people say, oh, this is really, Maseh Boreh. And other people says, it's beautiful. Right? So is that what I'm saying is it's not the same thing as what you described. Right? It's a shift. In other words, that there's a whole separate issue about how is it that Abraham came to this and how do they understand that, but it's describing a prototype of a human being who attunes themselves to be able to hear. And he's saying, this tells you something about the nature of the Torah. First, you could say it tells you something about Abraham. But why is it talking about Abraham Avinu? Because we're Abraham. We're Abraham. We are Bnei Abraham. And we are the continuation of Abraham Avinu. So when he's talking about this is about how it is that we can somehow attune ourselves to hear that Kadosh Baruch Hu is communicating to us in the world. This is not some, modern day mindfulness, hippy dippy, da 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 da. This is your job in the world. to have an authentic, real relationship with God. So now the question is, okay, now let's take a look at the Meshilach on his piece on Anochi. I thought that would be a helpful introduction, kind of a general, broad introduction. And now, of course, Sefer Bereshit is more the universalistic Sefer, and Sefer Shemot is more the particularistic Sefer of the beginning of the creation of Am Yisrael and our unique covenantal relationship with God, which is surely expressed most profoundly in Matan Torah. Right, we just finished last week Kriyat Yam Suf and Matan Torah. If you want to say the two pinnacle, events that kind of create, I would say, the mythical structures of Am Yisrael is Yetziat Mitzrayim and Matan Torah. So here we are at Matan Torah, and God has been waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. Created the world, waiting to say, "Here I am." Anochi Hashem Elokecha. Right here, so this is the first dibur. Vayidaber Hashem Kol Hadibrim Ha'elu Limor. Anochi Hashem Elokecha. So it's like, oh, Anochi Hashem Elokecha. What happened at that moment? How do you understand? How do you understand the Seder Dibra? How do we understand what occurred at that very moment? And it tells us something about the nature of revelation, which, ultimately, all of your commitment to Torah mitzvah hangs on that, especially if you're having difficulties. Not having difficulties, you think it's nice, all that creates nice community and continuation from the parents and all that. So people have to ask themselves, what's the Torah? What solidifies my relationship? Okay. So just for a second before we get started, Anochi Hashem Elokecha. What happened? What happened at Matan Torah? How do you understand? What's it resonate for you? What happens at Matan Torah?
Mass revelation as opposed to just speaking to individuals.
Okay, so we've got a community experience, right? There's a community experience. Okay. Something happened, a mass revelation, something became clear to the entire Jewish people at that time. Is that fair? Something everyone identifies with? Okay. Content.
I think it's after so many generations also that it's actually written. Kind of like what you said, where what does it mean to be, what is Torah to you? Like we have all this history underneath us. Like I don't know, Hashem didn't say to Abraham, Anochi Hashem right away, right? He didn't say that.
Right.
First time we heard it was at Matan Torah, so that we can have a context for it with so much history behind it.
Okay. All right, so you're saying this experience contextualizes the relationship with God.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Anything else? Okay.
I just presented it like straight up. That's kind of cool. You never did that before.
Okay, all right, so I would say, so we say there's an unveiling. There's an unveiling.
I am. I actually think it's a little frightening the way it happens. I don't know.
Well, if we had more time, what I'd take a look, if you look at Perek Yutet, Perek Yutet 19 before 20, which is Anochi Hashem Elokecha, right? You have this whole thing about them running back and forth and they're being quite terrified. And in Kafdal, at the end of the parsha, they say, we don't want to hear it from you. You talk, Diber Atayimano, Vayidaber El Pen Namut, right? It's like, so there's something actually terrifying about that unveiling. Okay.
The other thing is there's a contrast between the beginning and then the rest of it all just being like functional, like rules of society, respect your parents, don't kill, don't steal. It's like, it's not like kind of spiritually in that kind of way.
Right, so I want to look at the content for a second and think about that. I would say even the first two people, there's this contextual, there's what is the content? What is the content of the revelation and how is it that we relate to the content? Right, I would say that for the most part, people tend to relate. I would say a classic way of understanding is that at the revelation, everything was given. There was an absolute, right? There was an absolute revelation, not just about the presence of God, but you could say of the content of the Torah. somehow the content of the Torah, there was some absolute moment of the entire content of the Torah was somehow communicated to Am Yisrael. Is that fair? That's probably how it's presented in second grade and so on. Okay.
You know what I never thought about before, but we brought it up, someone else brought it up, but Elo Kecha. It's not in the plural. I just look kind of interesting that it really is like you. It's not Elo Kechem. No, not your collective God. I don't know, Elo Kecha, like your.
Okay, all right. Thank you. There's a whole, there's a lot of very beautiful Torahs that I'm going to focus on something else. This is, I would say if you woke me up in the middle of the night and say, what are the 5 best hits of Shilach? This would be one of them, okay? Okay. Anochi Hashem Elokecha. V'lo ne'emar ani. Right? Ki'ilu haya k'tiv ani. Haya mashma shigila az hakadosh baruch hu liyisrael et kol oro b'shlemut. V'lo yachlu achar כך להעמיק בדבריו, כי כבר גילה הכל. Okay? I just, it's very helpful for me. Does everybody, I'm totally fine with translating. I just need to know if everyone's on board with the Hebrew.
Can you translate it?
Yes, okay.
So can I also ask, what, I don't understand what he's saying the distinction is between Anochi and Ani.
Okay, so this is also like where I need a board. Okay, so if you have Anochi, he's playing with the words in the way that the Midrash, and I still don't know everyone's like level of education. This is a typical of what Chazal would do, except that he's giving a different type of meaning. He's not going to talk about the nature of revelation and the purpose of revelation. Okay, Anochi is saying he's playing, just like Chazal would do. Anochi Hashem, he said, he's playing with the kaf ha'demayon. The idea of the kaf ha'demayon is ki'ilu, kechatzot alayla, ki'ilu, as if to say. So it's as if to say he's reading, it doesn't say ani, I am with my full presence, Hashem Elokecha. Rather, that moment, that unprecedented moment of revelation, where so to speak, God is now going to finally reveal his entire presence and the entire content, if you will, of the Torah. It's not as if you thought, it's not the way you thought it was. It's ke ani Hashem Elokecha, ke'ilu ani Hashem Elokecha. Say, oh really? You're still hiding? Yeah. Why? What's to be understood here? Lo ne'emar ani. Ki'ilu haya kativ ani hayaz mashma gila shekadosh baruch hu. If I had said I, then it would have meant that God revealed his entire light, in all of his light in completeness. And then it would not be possible for there to be greater depth, developing and unfolding understanding in God's words, because everything would have been revealed. Now, this is the tension. This is the tension between, you could say a complete comprehensive revelation, which, if there was a complete and comprehensive revelation, of course, what that would mean, you have to think in terms of consciousness, or you can think about it in this way. If you completely and totally overwhelm your child, they will have no space to make any decisions whatsoever. You will, trust me, stilt their growth. They will not be able to grow. They will not be able to discover themselves. They will not be able to expand and develop. It's a very developmental understanding. And this is a reflection, which is actually what Heather said in the beginning in terms of like a hologram, right? This is a reflection of the Torah here is coming to help. The revelation is about helping us. It's teaching us how can we develop. It reflects to us how it is that human beings develop so that they can have a relationship with God. Meaning, again, if God reveals everything, you could say there is no space. We all transform into robots. There is no room. It's just not a possibility. So God can't do that. And here I'm still speaking internal, external language, what God can do or can't do. And it says, then it would be impossible to go into any greater depth because everything would be revealed. So he's saying the kaf, in other words, that very moment of revelation that you always thought was the unprecedented, total and complete revelation actually is partial. It's partial for a very important reason, right? Rak dmut udimayonhu. It's just it's
It's an image. It is a reflection, an image of the light which will eventually come. Adam, and now look, we just made a shift. We're now talking about humanity, how we develop. And the extent, everything that we come to learn, every time we come to greater depth and greater understanding of the Torah, right? When we come to a new understanding, new illumination, a new chap, maybe on this word anochi, all of a sudden we realize, wow, what I understood yesterday looks to me like choshech next to what I understand today, right? So it's like we are unfolding our process of learning Torah is a continuous process of revelation. That's what it ought be, right? Right? That's indicated in nature, right? In day and night. So day and night here isn't just a metaphor. It's saying that the entire Bria corresponds the way in which the world was created with day and night, light and darkness, clarity and hiddenness, corresponds also to the way that we comprehend and understand things. It's sort of like everything is sort of a holistic whole, and the process of nature also corresponds to the process of our minds and the way that we learn and the way that we understand. That's why people love to go and see the spring. Everything's fresh and it comes new, and then you clean up your house and it's there's like this kind of hatama, this correspondence of inside outside what's going on. That speaks to that's what he's describing. What does it mean day? Day symbolizes the moments, you could say, when God opens up the gates of wisdom, right? There are moments when you hit a place of clarity. I get it. I got it. I understand. Things are clear. But night indicates that a person doesn't grasp anything in its entirety. Right? Right? She's saying it's just a continuous unfolding process. That's why if you woke up this morning and you daven, we say emet v'yatziv. What do we say at night? Kriyat Shema, emet v'emunah. Why do we say emet v'yatziv all the time? In the morning, we say emet v'yatziv. It is true and it is steadfast. Right? You wake up, you make your long list of what you're going to accomplish. Emet v'yatziv. Get to the end. Okay? There were a whole bunch of surprises during the day. You got happy with the sun. You can say emet ve'emunah, right? So emet v'yatziv, it is true and it is steadfast. There is clarity, and not just clarity in terms of what we're doing, but like we have a certain sense of like, I understand what's going on. Right? There's certain clarity, certain wisdom, a certain understanding. Again, it's not just about a word in the Torah and a nuance of how we learn, but the way in which we learn Torah should also be an indication about how we understand ourselves as we unfold and develop, right? And things come to a certain clarity. But if we're truly attuned to the Torah and we have a certain degree of humility, then we understand that, there's going to come the Lila. There's going to come the Lila, even just in terms of learning, very often. This happens most often in like learning Gemara, but it's a very rigid, demanding type of learning. But you come, you work, you labor, and you think you got it, right? And you think you understand it. And then, you go to shir and somebody gives a shir, you realize, okay, I didn't guess there's all of a sudden like they expanded understanding. This was incorrect. This is correct. And that's the process, which is the unfolding process of Yom V'Olam. But what's important here is what he's saying about the human consciousness in the Torah. Hakol b'shleimut, kol ma shesiga dafla neged hayom shabach hara l'chen olam. Umemela hakol hu laila neged ha'or sheyiftach hakadosh baruch hu la'atid. So basically he's saying, right, and everything is really night when we consider the ultimate redemption, the ultimate light that eventually at some point will be revealed, but it's not now. Okay, now. Here is a beautiful, the next piece we call is Nochi Hashem Elokecha, right? What's the next pasuk or the next line, right? Lo taseh lecha pesel. Lo taseh lecha pesel. So let me ask you, like, as a modern person, you know, what's the fear without cheating and looking, right? What is he warning about? Anochi Hashem Elokecha, right? There's an experience of the presence, and now he just kind of like put it, it's as if to say, he said, Hi, Ani Hashem Elokecha. It's a great cop, right? Take that one home. You have to like breathe in that one and walk around with it, right? Okay, so it's on Hi Hashem Elokecha. That's the truth. The truth is that the revelation is Hi, Ani Hashem Elokecha, and it's as this process, right? Now, Lo ta'aseh lecha pesel. I want you to think about it now with your modern, intelligent, thoughtful eyes. What's the warning about? What's the concern? What's a pesel?
I think because of this partial revelation, and this is the danger in not, giving all of the information at once. It kind of leaves things open to interpretation. And maybe there's a fear that the people will find other forms of worship. So he's saying, Anochi, Hashem Elokecha, there's a partial, but just be warned, with this partial revelation, you should not veer off the path because it's easier to. That makes sense?
Well, it makes sense what you're saying, that would be a concern, but how does that connect it to a pesel?
Avodah Zarah,
What is avodah zarah?
serving gods other than Hashem.
Oh, okay, so let's say a pesel would be to serve a different god.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I hear you.
Doesn't it feel like like, if you just follow the logic, I gave you an image of Kilu like me, God. So then the humans are gonna be like, we wanna fill that in. We wanna that's just automatic, okay, so we have almost everything, so now we'll bring it into this world. And so he actually,
Wait.
next thing he
I
said,
want you to expand on it. Bring it into this world. What do you mean?
something tangible, yeah, we
Okay.
want something tangible. We didn't get it all. We have this sort of Kilu.
Well, I convinced you too much of that. I see, I did a good job of convincing you on the first part,
I
right?
did.
Right, so there's the Anochi Hashem
But it's just
Elokecha.
like the logic, so God is like, the next thing he says is you're gonna think now to create a pesel, but actually don't.
No, but I want you to tell me, what does the pesel mean? We throw these words around all the time. As
Statue.
modern, intelligent people, we gotta get past slogans, and everyone's capable of doing that. And I'm sure that everybody does that in some way. Like, well, what does it mean? Oh, it's in the book. Pesel.
I think it's a statue.
It's a statue.
Yes.
Okay.
It's not this big now.
So you're afraid you're gonna do what?
Physical representation of some sort of God-like being that we can focus our energies towards our davening.
Does it have to be physical?
I suppose it doesn't have to be,
So that's what happened. What else could it be?
materialistic.
Oh, okay. All right. So pesel could be, all right. I see what
It
you're
could be a
saying.
concept, I guess,
Mhm.
but
Big
then
concept,
they
it could
actually.
Uh-huh.
did
Okay.
That's us.
What? Okay.
No, let's just say pencil, but in other words, when you say Lo B'Shamayim Hi, it's in our hands, to figure out what to do with it. So, but we should make ourselves like say in the God, if you eat from the tree, your fruit, you will be like, right? So in other words, it is in our hands to figure out, but you gotta make sure that you don't I don't know, put yourself in the place of God, something like that.
Okay. Again, I need my board. Yeah.
It's a compliment word, pasul. I mean, that's good, but maybe. Pasul, something not. No, pasul is, what does that mean? I'm just asking you.
Pasul. Pasul. Yeah, right. Okay. Not pasul. Something you're disqualified. Okay. You should write a modern medrash on it. Go home and write something creative because it came into your mind. So that's.
Think about it.
Can I ask a
Yeah.
question in connection with
Yeah.
what everybody was saying? To me, the people felt like they were gonna die from the amount of revelation that they received. And they also had just seen splitting of the sea and the Makot. So
Right.
I don't know how necessarily he would have had to say, well, actually, this is not the full revelation. You've got to be scared because there's more, because they were already overwhelmed and impressed as it was.
You're right, but what I'm gonna do is just bring you right here. He's not talking about that right now.
Okay.
Okay, that's where you're gonna like love me and not like me as a teacher.
Mhm.
It's a great idea. It certainly has its place, but that's not what he's talking about. Right, he's talking about, there's this anochi moment, and then comes like this anochi moment, and then comes the warning. Right, so we're talking about also, there's also a Hasidic idea. There's expansion and then there's contraction. There's expansion and there's contraction, right? And you can translate that as that's always gone in our life, right? There's a certain amount of freedom and then there's control. We also have there's creativity and there's boundaries. All right, so let's go into what is he talking about? Okay. And he said, in other words, this is not a independent list of things. Anochi Hashem Lokecha. And now let me teach you something else. It's written in a way in which one correlates to the other. Right? Because it says later on, right after this second luchot, God comes and he says, make for yours, you have to hewn out these stones. Okay. Don't make yourself another Torah. And when they say ha'inyan b'zeh, they mean, now I'm going to tell you what this means. What's in it for you? Okay. Imilat pesel, the word pesel, hu davar mechutach b'midah v'tzav u'b'hashlama, bli chisaron shum davar be'olam. V'zot eino nimtza rak b'torat Moshe Rabbeinu, aber b'sechel enoshi ein be'efshar letaken davar kazeh b'shleimut hagamor. Okay, let's stop right here. And this is a lot. Okay. The word pesel, now he's relating to it literally. What is a literal pesel? It's something which is hewn and it has specific measurement and it isn't missing anything. It's complete. Bli shum chisaron sheba'olam. It is a perfect, complete item. Okay, so first he's exteriorizing it. We're talking about something perfect, right? Like the David. Bli shum chisaron sheba'olam. V'zot eino nimtza. That does not exist except in the Torah, and he doesn't mean the Torah that we have, but this ephemeral Torah. What's he warning against? Human beings have a tendency, right? Seichel enoshi, in human mind, it is impossible to conceive of anything, any idea that you have about what is the meaning of life, where you should invest your time. Now I'm moving from like the pesel to you say, well, I guess it could be a concept, right? It could be, ridifat mamon. It could be, I don't know how my kid has to turn out exactly, right? It could be many things, right? We have things in our minds and we have a tendency to attach to them because we like to make some seder and order out of our life, right? And there's part of that, which of course is very healthy and good. We conceive of things, right? So we have conceptions. And we have conceptions, and those conceptions become, to our mind, we take a certain conception of something, we then extract it, that becomes like the item, that becomes the pesel that we then worship. That's what he's talking about. So that corresponds to, there is a warning, not as you were partially, as you suggested, it's not, the Anochi Hashem Elokecha means, I'm telling you that the way in which you have a relationship with God is that things are continuously unfolding. You're going to come to an idea in the morning of chokhmah, and then things are going to become clear to you. And you're going to want to hold on to that because it gives you a great sense of security and certainty. Here's the truth. But then the nighttime is going to come and you're going to say, you know what? The way I understood this, maybe it needs some kind of adjustment. I didn't quite grasp it in its entirety. It could be a pasuk. It could be the way you need to raise your kids. It could be the way that you project certain things onto your husband about the way he is or isn't behaving or the way you behave yourself or whatever it is, whatever's going on in your life. Do you understand what I'm saying? Right. So we get certain like constructs in our minds, and then we fix those constructs, and those constructs become a pesel. So he's saying to you, lo ta'aseh lecha pesel. Why? Because our conception, that's how we make our conceptions are always imperfect. They're always unfolding. And that doesn't mean that when we come to a moment of bihirut, of clarity and chokhmah, we shouldn't be grateful and thank the Ribbon Shalom. Okay, this is the right thing to do today. This is the clarity that I have today. This is the moment of bihirut. That's why we say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, Emet v'yatziv v'nachon v'kayam v'yashar v'ne'eman v'avuv v'chaviv v'nechmad v'na'im v'chulei. That's the clarity that we have in the morning. But at night, we say Emet v'emunah, because things are not so clear. And this is, you could say, to have a relationship with God and to have an authentic relationship means that we have to be able to tolerate not making a pesel. Lo taseh lecha pesel. 1 second. We have to tolerate being able to shift back and forth between these two different modalities. And so the Anochi Hashem Elokecha here, it is in fact the behirut. It's not just saying you're supposed to be unclear all the time. You're supposed to understand that we come to a place of bihirut. We have a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's a moment of Anochi Hashem Elokecha, and God gave us the Torah, and through our relationship with the Torah, we come to a place of clarity, but we know that what we got is only partial. And so then it's going to shift and change, and we're going to come to a place of darkness, a place of lack of clarity, which then we hope and daven that place of darkness and clarity we bring again. We hope that we're going to get some clarity on that. So what he's presenting here are two modalities of being, and that the revelation of God's Torah to us is teaching us about how to be. It's a path. It's a way to be. It's not about information. And I think that that's the crucial shift. And in my mind, that is the crucial shift, that if we're going to hold on to this Torah, and the Torah is going to be truly meaningful, and not just something that we do, and when we have a problem, we run to psychologists, therapists, yoga, and all that's fine. I need bad professional people. But what I'm saying is that if the Torah is truly something that we believe has something to teach me for my life, not just something that locks me into a system that makes me feel secure and I belong to a society and a community, with all of the very important elements that has in it, and we can certainly list all of them. And many, many of them, but it's much more than all of that. So that's kind of like the cracking open part of what I'd like to share. You want to say something? I'm
Interesting. But it's hard, why are we even studying if we can't get locked into it? Our brains are going to try to create, compartmentalize things, right? And organize things. That's what our brains do. That's why we're that's how Hashem created us. So then what's the point of even studying anything and learning? We can't actually organize our thoughts successfully, and it actually doesn't have meaning.
Oh, I really wish we had an hour now.
Why are we here?
You're asking fabulous questions. But I'm interested to know why that's the direction that you're taking this in. Why take it into a place of deconstruction?
Well, if there's no what did you say? If you can't create a concept that would compartmentalize,
You can create a concept, but you just have to have the humility and knowledge to know that whatever it is that you understand at this particular moment, there's a certain moment of clarity that you have at this particular moment. And when the light comes in, however you want to understand it, to shed some light that maybe it requires some type of an adjustment, the lo taseh lecha pesel comes in as a warning that the clarity and the ability that your mind has to make some seder and some order is only a piece of the picture. The other part has to be cultivated. Western society doesn't cultivate that part. Right, my secular prophet is Ian McGilchrist, which everybody should read his book, which is called "The Master and His Emissary in the Making of the Modern World." Right? He's a brilliant psychiatrist and neuroscientist and a person in the humanities who wrote that the Western world has taken more of its fair share, and that the left side of the brain, which is one that has structure and organized and it has. That the Western world is in danger of losing their humanity. Nothing short of that. They're in danger of losing their humanity because everything is so atomized and measured and calculated. It really, and I read that and said, oh yeah, that's like religion is in danger of losing its relevance and its humanity. All of its halacha and details and this and that. That all has its place. But the master and his emissary says that the details and the structure are in the service of something larger. They're in service. The details and the structure, let's put it this way, in our language, the halacha is in the service of God. God is not subservient to the halacha. the details and the way in which we structure our mind and make order out of our lives. You could say the discipline that you give to your child is in the service of the love that you have for that child, whether they can see it or not. The moment that the love is out of it and it's discipline for the sake of discipline, you've got a nasty, destructive household. So those are the components. And what you think is healthy discipline today, I'm just putting it out there. Kids are grown, now they're disciplining me. Right? Teaching me a very strong lessons. Right? The structures have to shift. That's all. It doesn't mean that, discipline, structure, and order. We're talking about, gvura. There's many different metaphors for these structures. But what he's talking about is Anochi Hashem Elokecha is a revelation, is presence, is, it's also like the light and the clarity. But with that also comes the infinite potential. Right? The Lo Taseh Lecha Pesel is coming on the background of, yes, we really do want, I agree, we want some structure. I mean, now I can laugh about it, but I'm sure you guys are probably hooked in the thrust of it right now, so it's not funny. Right? It's like, how am I going to ensure that my kids are going to turn out from? Well, you can't. And there ain't no guarantees. And then you got to loosen yourself up. And I'm just putting on the table something that it tends to be that people think about. Maybe that's not your issue. Maybe you're not thinking about that, right? But that's what I mean. Like, I want the structure. I want the guarantee. So the truth is that you'll actually have a greater guarantee if your salim are looser. If we move through this process, kind of, in this particular example I'm giving, you dance with them. Talk about floopy. What was that word? There's a certain dance here. So I would say, if I'm making sense to you, there's structure. There certainly is. There's structure. I would say there's chokhmah. There's chokhmah and clarity and structure and order. And then there's the tendencies of our minds to really give ourselves that sense of security and certainty and say it's this. And that's what he's saying about Taseh Lecha Pesel. If I'm just going to continue for a moment, I'm going to skip until after the large grind, the last 4 lines. V'chen b'chol makom shehu eit lasot l'Hashem, yirmaz hatzivui shel heferu toratecha. V'lechen kol haTorah kolela kol harpatkaot sheyavru ve'ora mekif kol ha'ofanim kol ha'hitavut she'afshar lehitavut. V'zeh ein b'koach shum adam lasot. So in some sense, he is saying this, this ideal Torah includes all these different possibilities, all this movement and all these possibilities, but we can't grasp it. Right? Ein b'sechel adam, ein b'koach adam lasot. V'zeh mifaresh Zohar al lo ta'aseh lecha pesel, haynu b'mitzvot taseh. V'kol tmuna hu b'mitzvot lo ta'aseh. Ki lo nigla la'adam shum davar atachlito. The human mind, I'm going to be respectful of our time. The human mind can't grasp anything in its completion because God created us in such a way that we are unfolding. We are incomplete. So we can't make out of our own minds a pesel. Baruch Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu aligned our neshamas and our minds to be somehow aligned, leiv nachon, to be aligned with the unfolding possibilities. And so we unfold together with each other. That doesn't mean that we walk around all the time being uncertain and unclear about what we're doing. It means that we have to really absorb a very profound, deep, and sophisticated way of understanding both the Torah and our minds and our relationships. And that is that there's continuous moments of birut and structure and decisions, clarity. And that would be, there's the Anochi Hashem Elokecha, but we hold on to the kit. Anochi Hashem Elokecha, because there's a warning, Lo Taseh Lecha Pesel. Right? You'll find, I promise you, walk through it. You'll find that whenever you find that you're really rubbing up against terrible, terrible difficulties, it's usually because we've made a pesel out of something and it needs some type of an adjustment. Everything's going click, 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 and the various things going on in your personal lives right now. So when we only have 4 sessions here, but when you get closer to each other, it's like, oh, right, okay, so take a moment, write it down. What's going on? And then read it, then read the piece again. And see that what the masters are offering you, I hope if I've somehow managed, is it's not cultish and it's not strange, and that's perfectly okay, but that's what people think. But it is a profound hidden treasure that we need to access because it can simply just save Yiddishkeit. And it can really offer us profound and deep directions for both our personal lives and for a relationship with the Torah, relation with the Torah, and some profound, deep guidance for our own derech avoda, which is hopefully very real. So I didn't get to this other place. You can see it, save it. This is a real winner. Put this one at the table. And I'll take 1 second since I have your attention because it's an amazing piece. It's worth another couple of minutes. Okay. This is a beautiful piece which talks. It's delightful and it's easy. This is also in the Measure Lux. Says, "Lo ta'asenoti Elohei kesef Elohei zahav." Don't make me a god of silver or a god of gold. Mizbach adamat aseli. Right? Make me a mizbeach of earth, right? An earthen tabernacle. Now, what he does here, this is also very classic, as opposed, he's just describing how to do avoda. How do you do avoda? Right? Lo tasaniti Elohei kesef Elohei zahav. Elohei kesef. Hainu gvan. Here, by the way, just in short, kesef is milashon kisufin. And kisufin is longing. So kesef, silver, is associated with longing. You can't get more into that. This is about symbols, but the depths of symbols. You see how it's layered. Zahav, which is considered to be red and gold and fixed, right? Is associated with Yira, right? It's red. It's also the Egel HaZahav, and there's the Zahav in the base in Mishkan. Okay, so there's a play between Kesef and Zahav, between yearning and between things which are fixed and Yira. Okay, so he says, "Hainu gvan ahava v'hitlavut yoter mekafi ma'amadcha." Love this line. Ki'en chavrita klape shmaya. Don't serve me with too much enthusiasm, which does not correspond to your authentic position. Meaning, if you haven't, I remember once Rav Mital apparently said to a guy in yeshiva, I only heard the story because I wasn't in yeshiva. Rav Mital said there was a guy in yeshiva who used to wear tefillin all day long. And Rav Mital said, Rav Mital, who had great sympathy, loved Rav Kook and knew all of Hasidus and writing, he said, "You don't know how to learn well enough to wear tefillin all day long." Right? Your spirituality has to have some money in the bank, which is what I opened with, and I meant it seriously. Right? So, you can't jump up and down and be overly enthusiastic if you haven't spent enough time sitting down learning. Ki ein chavruta klap ishmaya. You're not God's buddy. Ve'ein hakadosh baruch hu mehev et ha'adam rak im ha'emet ito. God doesn't love a person unless he is authentic. What is Elohei Zahav? Hainu gvan yira yoter mekfi ma'amadcha. The dimension of fear, being too cautious and anxious, or I would say yira, having too much restraint, strictures, which also doesn't correspond. You could say maybe you have too many, take upon yourself, too many chumras. Doesn't correspond to your authentic ma'amad. Rak mizbach adamata aseli. Just make me a mizbeach, which means don't make me a mizbeach, become a mizbeach. You are the mizbeach, right? The human being is the mizbeach. Adama hainu pshitut. Kamoshu belevavcha. Just be simple, the way that you really are in your heart. B'chol makom asher azkir shmi avo alecha v'articha. Ezkir hu milashon beirur. Hainu b'chol makom sha'ani evarer shehashem hatchalat hanikuda shelcha b'leiv l'shem shamayim as techef eshlach lecha bracha al berachticha. Okay, this end requires at least a half an hour. I'm just going to open up for you. He's talking about beirur. Beirur means an ethical and spiritual clarifications that a person has to make within themselves, constantly being mevarer ourselves. And that has to do with what we were talking about before. Also, you come to a place of clarity. That feels good. I also like a little bit of clarity every so often, right? Come to some clarity. And then, but wait a minute, we have to have this certain amount of humility to do beirur, to do these reflective refinements, right? So what he's saying is, we serve God, if you leave Mizbach Adamah Taseli. Become a Mizbech Adamah. Become simple. Become simple, not in simplistic, simple, be who you are. Because he says the beginning point of having your heart be aligned with Shem Shemayim is that place of simplicity. Where am I really at, right? And when we get too stringent about things, right, or whatever it is, like we lose our alignment with ourselves. And so they're really talking about, there's not too much ava, not too much yira, mizbach adamah ta'aseli, which of course each person's got to figure out for themselves, because it could be that for one person it's very appropriate to have yoter ava or yoter yira. And everyone's got to figure it out, but it's a very individualistic Torah, because at the end of the day, it's Anochi Hashem Elokecha. Okay, it's great to meet you, ladies. Yeah, it's good. It's good to see human beings in the flesh and blood. I'm gonna turn this thing off so you don't have to keep having it spinning and spinning. Tano, you're welcome to join us. I also used to teach beautiful young men. It's a big scut. So Natano's working for the Beit Midrash. I don't know if you've all met him, but it's a